Apollo. Whoa, whoa, yeah. Hey. Beat by Apollo, stop at new Apollos. Cop a Henny sour, and I'm puffing Jack sour. Yeah, I feel a black power. Yeah, this time it's really ours. It's time to get the bag. Yeah, it's time to get the bag. Yeah, yeah. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Ask for it, you receive it. Got it locked, put the key in. Got them looking, yeah, they praying. She like, I like what I'm seeing. Now we up, they agreeing. Play full, yeah, we eating. Now you can't ignore this feeling when you got it from and seeing. Why these niggas built in?
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
How I'm loving life these days.
The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
And then there were two. Welcome to round number 8 of the Asphalt Kings series. We have been to 7 different races. And next final round, we're about to attack the mountain here in Bathurst. 129 points is the score between two of our drivers, Kyokuro Racing and Eve Jaku. These two titans have been at it for the majority of the season, but it now comes down to one final race. Take the victory, finish ahead of your opponent, the crown is yours. My name is Adam Reed. I'll be alongside Caitlin Penny in the commentary box. No Jake Sammett tonight as he's enjoying himself away from the commentary box, but here we are ready for a championship finale. We now watch our GT7 drive about to take on this amazing circuit. Caitlin, Bathurst is just one of those circuits that is ranked so highly in the motorsport calendar. You see that circuit and the immediate excitement really gets you. And with the occasion of a championship finale with 2 drivers equal on points, it doesn't get any better than that, does it?
No, I mean, there's one word that can describe Bathurst, and that is notorious. It is iconic, so I guess that's 2 words, actually. And Mount Panorama are the 2 words that refer to it in general. It's very much a circuit of 2 halves. You have the long runs up and down the hill, the Conrod Straight, the Griffith Straight. You have the little 90-degree corners on either side of the start-finish line. And then, of course, you have the hill section, which is ridiculously tight, pretty much nowhere to pass up there, but plenty of room to smash up a car if you're not paying attention. So you mentioned the championship. There you see it on your screen, 129. Well, that's the results of the previous race by the look of it. 129 points separating the top 2 in the championship, or joining the top 2 in the championship. It absolutely could go either way.
Absolutely. Daniel Vella took the victory last time around, but Jake Samet was just inches making contact going on to that final lap, and it was potentially a move that he lived to regret. So much to kind of talk about as well in that mid-pack, with Jonathan Spiteri putting in a really good result, and Denzel Andrews down there in P5, currently in P3 in the championship, and of course a previous champion. He'll have to send his crown over to another driver, and one of those will be one of the top 2 you currently see on your screen. But as you say, it is looking pretty tight, and I think we can honestly go on about this for so long, but I think there's so many interesting kind of points to talk about, especially with the way that the circuit is laid out. And there is your championship standings. Jake Samet, 129 points. Daniel Vella, 129 points. Denzel Adjus, of course, he will have to stick with 3rd, with Jonathan Spiteri moving up to 4th, and then of course Ilan Dimek in his Honda NSX GT500. Unfortunately, had 2 DNFs the last 2 races. Really not having the best of the time. George Page has been on the pace, but he's had a few difficulties during this season, with Ayrton Birmingham, Clint Orland, Christian Sammert, and John Paul Vella rounding out the top 10. But as many GT drivers will know, this is a very difficult track. You cannot take your eyes away from the road. Christopher Mee said that fastest lap of a 1:59. So if you get anywhere near the 2-minute mark, you've put in a seriously good lap. There at the circuit, 6.2 kilometers, the longest we've got on this calendar. 23 of the finest corners, and a top speed of 300 kilometers an hour down that Conrod Straight and on towards that chicane. But you can just see how tricky that section is, especially that iconic part of the circuit, of course, going in towards Brock's skyline, heading through the S and in toward the Dipper. You're looking all the way. There's been many car pieces left around this circuit, and honestly, it is just going to be a really finely tuned qualifying session. Only 20 minutes set here, and it's going to be full pedal to the metal.
Indeed it is, and I tell you what, Bathurst is the best place for a championship decider, because it's going to keep it tense right until the end of the race. I mean, at a normal circuit, you know, at a wide open circuit with plenty of runoff, you could say that if someone is leading the race by, 20 seconds or whatever, then the championship's over. But here at Bathurst, a single mistake could decide it. It could put your car completely out of action. So even if that is the case, even if we do get someone absolutely dominating it, it will still be tense right up until the end because of what might happen. And that's important in the terms of this championship, because if you look at the statistics, Dan Vella should theoretically be better. He has won every race that he's participated in. The only reason he has not won the championship already is because he has missed 2 rounds. But while that does suggest on paper that he should be winning the championship, the fact that they come into this final round on equal points and that it's Bathurst really keeps it up in the air.
Absolutely, it really just makes for an absolutely amazing finale. But we can talk about the qualifying pace, such as you know, we've got Jake Sammer, who's put in 3 pole positions in the last 3 races. That's always an upper hand. But then you've got the race pace, which is a whole different story. Because rather than a 20-minute sprint, then you've got a 40-minute kind of endurance race. Well, it's kind of a bit of a it's kind of an endurance race for more of a sprint for most GT drivers. Of course, it's been described by some of GT's best, mainly Kevin Estra, as you've got half the circuit which is based off the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and the other half which is based off Macau, which is 2 immense circuits here on the motorsports calendar. But before we talk any further, I just want to say thank you to our big sponsors of GamingMalta, who has who's been sponsoring this championship all throughout, and of course our collaboration with Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP. We're about to head into an ad break, but now we've got qualifying, the final qualifying session of the season. Who will take top spots and put themselves in the best position for this huge race around the mountainside? We'll be back in a moment for qualifying. So we're into qualifying, and already you can see the night sky is starting to appear. The clouds are very much over the circuit, and the headlights have been turned on. Everyone is in very much close proximity as they head their way through the cutting and on towards Griffin's Mound. But there is one of your championship contenders, Kyokudo Racing, who's had 5 wins in the races that he has attended. 5 out of 5 so far. Can he make it a 6? A couple more drivers a little bit more confident than others, getting very close to the wall. That's what you have to do on a similar level. Just make sure you don't touch it next time around. But there you can see, heading in toward the S's section of the night becomes very much apparent. Of course, the air is a little bit less when you get up to the top point of the circuit. And there is our other contender, Yves Jarku, in the bright blue livery. It was all green before Rexy, which you can see in the IMSA Championship over in the States. But yeah, you can see our 2 championship rivals already getting pretty close here in qualifying. That is a brilliant photo to have. So hopefully somebody manages to grab a little bit of that. But qualifying is going to be oh so important. Here we're already seeing some of the characteristics around this circuit. I think it's going to be such a tough qualifying, and one you have to really master. It will take a while to get up to confidence, and again, you will have that 20 minutes, probably about 15 minutes to do so, and then have that 5 minutes of just ultimate push laps.
Yeah, that was a really cinematic shot there, and it was really representative of the season so far as it looks on the score sheet, with Kyokudo, Dan Vella just slowly catching and then creeping past Yves Jarku. It's great stuff to see, actually, cars going side by side in qualifying, and you've got to ask whether that was a little bit of a mind game there from Kyokudo going down the straight, just to be like, yeah, this will be me in the race, I'm flying straight past you. But anyway, they're on to their flying laps now, going up the Griffith Straight and around to the outside. Now we have the left-hander at the cutting, and then we head up to the notorious mountain section. You'll notice the barriers really closing in around the drivers. It gets so tight up here as we head up to the highest point on the circuit, Adam. And then we oh,
They just need to keep up getting very, very close to the barrier. They're very much using every piece of the circuit. That's exactly what we have to do around this circuit. You just have to keep in close proximity to the barriers, keep as close as possible without touching the wall. You can just see that Kyokudo threading the needle through the left, through the right, and this really gives you a good kind of sign of what this thing's going to be like. Very similar to Road America in that case, when you go in toward that chicane section for the first half of that kind of point in the race or that circuit. But I think at this moment in time is currently Denz out in front, but of course we know how good he is in qualifying, but we'll have to see. Well, it's not really his strength is qualifying, but he's at the top at the moment, but it's still very, very early days, and we'll now get to see what these championship contenders can do here with Kyokudo for now.
so here we come up to the line to see the first flying laps. It's going to be close to that 2-minute mark, isn't it? This is going to be a really good lap from Kyokudo, especially for a banker. It's 2 minutes, 0.677. Now, a couple of years ago, that would have been an outright record at Bathurst. Of course, it's slightly different doing it in the sim to doing it in reality, but that was a very good lap. And you can see he's now showing at the very top of the time. So that is the time to beat, 2 minutes, 0.677.
A decent lap time there. It looks like Jake Sam has put in a time good enough for third, but again, there's still a little bit of time there. There's Jensen and Busser making improvements there, as well as George Pard. So we do have 13 drivers indeed in this session. So those drivers will make sure they attack the circuit as much as possible. You're already seeing here with Denzu got a little bit of confidence in the Lexus. He may not be one of the qualifying outright masters, but he can I can assure you that he's going to put in a decent spot in the race, heading down in towards the S's section, and makes an improvement there as they head their way through. It's a little bit of a tight section through that little section through the dipper and on towards Forest Elbow, and then they'll head on toward the Conrad straight. I'm not entirely sure which will have the best straight line speed in terms of the Lexus or the Porsches. My guess, I want to say, will be the Porsches, but I'm sure we'll be able to potentially see that if they go side by side during the race. But let's just stay with Dens here, as he's now finding himself half a second up with a good lap time on the horizon.
Yeah, it's not quite going to be enough to overcome Kyokudo unless he improves even more in this third sector. We're keeping an eye on it. You can see on the right-hand side the lap times that have been set so far as he comes up towards the line, out of the final corner now, and crosses the line with, it'll be just over 2 minutes. It's 2:01.232, so he stays in second position and does bring that gap down to Kyokudo. There is Yves Jaku across the line, 2 tenths off, just under 3 tenths off actually. And remember, you do actually get an extra point for qualifying on pole position. So between these two who are fighting for the championship lead, Kyokudo and Yves, it's fantastic to see them fighting over pole because that really matters in terms of the championship. But we have a new driver in second position, Adam.
That is going to be Ayrton Birmingham. He's put in some decent results in the last few races. Of course, sits right in the mix in 6th place, but had one podium back in Catalonia. But he's been on a decent run. He's had that 100% point scoring record as so as many other drivers. But yeah, very much an outstanding. It's only 6,000ths of a second to Kyokudo there, and he continues up toward the cutting, and that's where we had the of course the very, very famous clip of Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy having their big accident back in 2005 and having a little bit of a disagreement, but no disagreements in this one, with Alex really pushing that Porsche right to its limits. Oh, I think he's just touched a little bit of curb there, too much on the inside, and that is the effect. That will just push your lap all the way down. Unfortunately there, 7 tenths off, so I think a little bit of a backing off here, find a little bit of space for Birmingham, and then he can reset himself and go again. He's got Giannini there just up ahead there in P12, and also another car, so he may need to just find himself with a little bit of space here. I think space is going to be very, very important until you go on to Conrad, where you may need a little bit of a tow, but that won't come easy as you like.
Yeah, it is going to help him slightly up the Conrad Straight. I think it's going to ruin his time though, because he was really bunched up out of that last corner. We're going to see him go down into the chase now. Now, the car ahead of him doesn't have to move out of the way. That's another driver who is on a flying lap, so he is being timed and thus has the same right to the track as everyone else does. But it does mean, of course, that there will be no improvement for Addex this time around, who comes into the pits. Addict, of course, Ayrton Birmingham, and now we see the mechanics being prepared because they know he's coming down the lane for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will be crucial to just get this change in and do a little bit of setup tweaking here and there, because with the that's Kyoto getting a big old twist out of the hell corner, powers his way now up toward the mountain, but you never want one of those on the exit of a corner. You always want to keep it nice and smooth. You half of the exit, half on, half off the circuit there. But the pace seeming to be in the way of Kyoto so far, and it just doesn't seem like Jake Sammer has that out and out response. In fact, here you can see in the background there, that is Sam just following Kyoto here. And this is really interesting because he's picking up some, what I like to call some self-data for himself. He gets to follow the lines, see where he's losing time, sees where he's gaining time on Kyoto compared to what he is possibly doing, and then he can maybe adjust his kind of style of driving and then maybe put it in towards where he's kind of put it on towards where he is potentially out for an improvement there. At this moment in Birmingham from Samet, with Agius in 4th and Jonathan Spiteri up in that top 5. Pretty competitive in that top 5 so far, and also John Paul Vella in 6th place as well. He's always been a bit of a silent killer when it comes to qualifying, but for the moment he does sit 6th. But we're only now halfway into this session, but still some more improvements can be done with the remainder we've got left on the clock.
Yep, you can see the time on the bottom left of the screen. We have a 20-minute qualifying session, unless I'm very much mistaken, and we're just over halfway through that session. Now, normally in these sessions, you see the best lap times being set super late on, because that's when the drivers are at their most pumped up, when they know that everything they're doing matters in terms of the starting order of this race. That looks like an out lap there from Eve, so he's just going on to a brand new lap time now to see what he can do about knocking Ryukido off that top spot. Kyokudo, my apologies. Knocking him off that top spot to get that 1 point that's going to matter for the session. As out of the pits comes Jonathan Spiteri. I tell you what, I commentated on him. I mean, I remember the name. I swear I commentated on him in another Maltese event. Probably about 5 years ago now, so it's a real blast from the past for me, and he is currently running in 5th position there, JS19.
Absolutely, Spiteri has been another competitive driver. 2 podiums, 2 third places in the last 2 races, so he's been a little bit of a roll, and another driver that's put in some really good runs to put himself up into 3rd in that drivers' championship. We use sorry, my apologies, Daniel Agius is in place. My apologies in that one, but yes, 2 podiums for Spiteri could potentially put in a great result here. But this is a big lap here from Sam, but immediately gets destroyed. He was up on his time, and unfortunately it just did not come to fruition. A big old snap there, and a little bit too fast going in toward the S's section, and a little bit of a downward spiral there for Sammer. I think it's just going to be another one of those moments where you just got to take it on the chin and run with it. I think he'll finish off this lap, then come back into the pits and go for a big 2 runs after. You can see how much that's killed his lap time. 7/10 down now, so he was good up in till then, and it's so difficult to try and recreate all the good that you've done.
Okay, well, he's going for another lap now, so I presume that means he's got enough fuel and enough tyre life to go for another full lap time. If he didn't, there's no reason that he would complete that lap, because there was no way it was going to be an improvement on his time. Here comes Addict up to the line now, Ayrton Birmingham. pretty good lap. How does that compare? It's not quite the best time, but he is very close, isn't he? So still a contender for pole is Ayrton Birmingham. There's Dents in 4th position, getting right up close to the barriers. And I tell you what, it's good to see a mix of cars being used here. We've seen a lot of Porsches out there. They definitely seem to be the car to go for. But the Lexus RCF is a real classic of GT racing. It's quite old at this point, in all honesty. I believe it came out in 2016. I remember watching it winning its first race in the International GT Open back in the day. And still running relatively strongly, but slightly out of date by this point in time. And at least we do have a mix of cars out there, so it's not a one-make series.
It is nice to have that mix amongst the series, but of course, when you get into the championship, you do have that selection. You have to stay with that car for the entire championship. So that's why the Porsche is just an all-round good car. But then sticking loyal with his Lexus, I believe, won the championship. I know he won the championship last year, I believe, with the Lexus. I'm sure I'll get a little bit of a notification in that part. But a pit stop there for Denz. I don't think he'll completely empty the tank. I think he'll just stick with it now, stay in the pit lane, and then finish it on a set of soft tires. So we've now got only now 5.5 minutes left. Spiteri now down into P6. He's been knocked off his perch by George Page, who's got himself up into 5th place. But I'm wondering what is going on in the mind here of Jake Sammer, because he is very much not in the right place here. Usually you would see him up in that top spot, or is he just saving for that final moment in qualifying, for that final sprint? Osman Schwedep has got a decent set so far, almost 6/10 up, using a little bit of the surface there, the asphalt to the left-hand side, past that white line to get the turning to stay completely flat. Let's see if Schwedep in that beautiful purple and black livery can improve on his lap. Nope, he decides to abort, so I think he will just stay with the switch onto the tyres, stay with the fuel he's got, and go and make that final run.
Indeed, so the top two are together on track now. This time Addict just ahead of Kyokudo Racing as they head up the hill, almost rubbing the barriers through Griffin's Bend. I was erroneously saying Griffith's Straight earlier on to mean the mountain straight. I think he did touch the wall there. The sparks flew slightly as he flicked it into the left-hander. These corners very fast, but very unforgiving. You've got a big gravel trap on the outside, and to be honest, that's a relief for these drivers, because at most of these corners they just have a wall. Now we go down through the dipper. I have a question actually. How sensitive is damage in this? Because I do have to admit, this is my first ever Gran Turismo 7 broadcast, and I'm not sure what settings they're running. So if you tag a barrier in the dipper, how detrimental is that going to be?
I definitely think it'll destroy your momentum at least. I'm not entirely sure if we'll get any huge amount of damage. I think you have to really take a big old whack on one of the walls to kind of damage your car. We haven't seen many damages from the crashes that we've seen at the past, and usually they happen at the back of the field, but I've not really seen much damage in terms of crash damages on this game. But for the moment at least, a lot of our drivers are very much capable of putting in a decent race and keeping it on the surface. Denz is at this moment in time looking to try and put in a decent lap as he comes past Corey Ben and onto the cutting, flipping it into the left, lifting off the throttle, hard on the brakes, 150 bars you've got to stamp as you head your way back up on towards Griffin's Mount and past Sulman Park, really just kissing the barrier, trying to get a right close and personal, but not too personal, otherwise you will destroy that momentum. It's always, you feel that little bit of a whimper coming upon when they just scrape the barriers, and I'm sure around this qualifying session, if you don't come away with a scratch in your car, you haven't got close to the barriers and you've left a little bit on the table. 3/10 here for Den so far. He carries that Lecter through, but a little bit of a squeal from the tyre, so I think a bit of locking potentially for our reigning champion, who I'll say that has to keep his crown by the end of tonight. You just saw there where the point will be, where they'll have to start that slowdown penalty if they get one. Almost 2.5 tenths up, almost 3 tenths here for Dens. So we'll see if he can potentially put himself up into top 3 position and put himself in a brilliant position for the race coming up. Of course, Dens is not one of those qualifying drivers, but he has put himself in the top 3 before. I believe that was back at Barcelona. They're heading over the timing line. It's going to be a 2 minute point 0.7 there, so getting pretty close there to Addict and up into the top 3 for Dens.
I've been really impressed by the pace of this session so far and by how close a lot of these drivers are. Because 2 minutes 0.7 is only a tenth of a second. It'll be just under 2 tenths of a second because of how low in the 2 minutes 0.6 is Kyokudo is. But that shows you just how close they are, because this is a long circuit. There's plenty of room for the lap times to get separated. Here comes Eve up to the line. This is going to be a good one. Is it? Well, okay, I think he improved slightly. That was very close. That was a 2 minute 0.8, really not bad at all. And he's now heading on to what will be his last attempt at a flying lap, because we're getting into the final minute of the qualifying session. Here is Kyokudo on course for a pole position. His lap time came down even more since we last read it out. It's a 2 minute 00.604. Now that is the time to be if anyone can. I've also noticed that grg.gg has moved into the top 5 now. That is George Pash, as you say, and he demotes Jonathan Spiteri as a result of that, but still very close between those 2 Maltese drivers as well. And now down through the dipper for the final time goes, and a big twitch from Kyokudo. I'm not sure he's going to improve, so now he just has to wait like a sitting duck to see if anyone else will knock him off that top spot.
It does seem like that may cost him a tenth or two, maybe towards that 210, but Kyokudo will have to put in a big shift in this last sector as he powers his way on towards the Conroy straight and on towards that chicane of the chase. It is still purple, still 0.04 of a second up here as he powers his way through. George Parge and Jonathan Spiteri come into the pits and said, I can't do any more. But Kyokudo on top now, and will just try and extend that advantage and just end the run here of Jake Sam as he powers his way through that final corner of Murray's and on towards the timing beam. Will he improve and put it in at 1:59? It's now, he's missed out by just. But here comes Ayrton Birmingham. Does Ayrton Birmingham have anything up his sleeve? He heads now in towards Murray's corner, and he'll just try and get it slowed down on the exit. A bit of a snap of oversteer. And there it goes. That's a big time. That's huge from Jake Salmon. Massive time, and he put himself to the top of the standings by 0.07 of a second. Save the best till last. And it looks like Ayrton Birmingham good enough for third. Denzer in P4. Nobody can knock off Parge or Spiteri. But from the depths of nothing, it looks like it's going to be Yves Jarku to reclaim another pole position, his 4th in a row, and puts himself 1 point ahead now of Kyokudo. But this is still a whole 40-minute race to go, but that is exactly what he needed.
And the gap between the two of them at the end, less than 0.07 of a second. What a tense end to this qualifying session between the 2 Maltese hard chargers. Yves Jarku, also known as Jake Samu, takes pole position, and with that provisionally takes the championship lead over Kyokudo Racing, Dan Vella, and will go into the race with the advantage of track position as well at a circuit where that means more than anywhere else. Can he stop the hard charging Kyokudo Racing? As it currently stands, he's got a real chance.
He absolutely does, and I'm sure we'll be able to get into that entire kind of race strategy. But But I think at this moment in time, if you are Jake Sammett, you'll be very much relieved after the pressure being completely lifted off your shoulders. And if you're Daniel Vella, what will you be thinking? Well, I'm sure surely you'll be thinking that, well, how on earth did that happen from a Sammett 4th place to a pole position for the Maltese driver? But I'm sure that he'll very much be looking at a potential victory here, and especially like you said, the margins are so close, and the last thing you want to be doing is giving up track position here. I think the potential undercuts, but we'll now head into the race. Before that, thank you to all our collaboration and our main sponsor, GamingMalta. We'll head for the ad break, and after that it will be race time here for the final at Bathurst.
The pace. Oh, Molly! Oh, my God! Building a fight, and this be hit relies on. Oh! And he nails them both. More from Twist. Oh my God!
Here we go for the final time here in the Asphalt Kings GT7 series. We go racing under the lights here at the Mount Panorama circuit, and it will be Jake Sammett leading the way in the blue version of Rexy. For the final time of the season, he'll be up against Kyokudo Racing, and we now look back to Fuji, where he just felt that pressure of leading, of course, with Kyokudo in behind him. Immediately felt that pressure and unfortunately cracked, but how will he do on a tighter, more demanding circuit here at Bathurst? They climb up towards the cutting for the fans. Time they'll power their way through and on towards that right-hander and just try and follow each other. There is Dent in the Lexus. He is just going to try and keep in the rhythm and see if he can make any moves. Dental could be a silent killer in this race. We know his race pace is absolutely blistering, especially in the latter stages, but we're on high fuel. How will they cope in these early stages? There's George Pard. He's looking to go on the attack as well, and they power their way past and right up toward the fans and right up past the wall. We're in for a big race, and they continue their way through the circuit and on toward this downhill section of the mountain already.
Well, confusingly, it seems like we have two Samuts in the race. We've got Christian Samut at the back. Oh, all over the place there was Yves Jacu on the entrance to the corner. He's got a really bad run onto the Conrad. Side by side now, Kyokudo goes up the left. They rub wheels. These are the two championship leaders, remember, fighting it out at the start of the last race of the season. And I think Kyokudo is going to have the lead going into the chase. It's a three-pronged corner here. You've got a right-hander, a left-hander, and a right-hander, so you can attack from either side. But it's a really difficult place to do it because it's so fast and you're braking from such a high speed. Out to the corner we go. Look at Adex getting involved now. Ayrton Birmingham. He's not in the championship fight, but that does not mean that he is not going to fight for the win. Out to the corner we go now. Kyokudo will lead after the first lap, despite the pole position from Yves Jacu.
Yeah, I think that little mistake was a little bit costly, and it has really costed him track position here. Now, Kyokudo or Daniel Vella now get the opportunity to make kind of inroads into this lead and try and make a bridge a gap. I think that's the main thing that he needs to be doing. And now, this is a little bit crucial here because Sammut is now looking on the defensive as Ayrton Birmingham is seeming to be on the attack here, with Birmingham only one podium. he'll be hungry for a second, and he won't be afraid to get involved in the championship battle. But look at Kyokudo, he's already making a gap, and this is putting pressure here on Samet. And will he be able to take the anvils off and relieve the pressure that he has? Unless he maybe goes for an undercut here, I can't see a lot of chances for a potential win unless Kyokudo makes a big unlikely error.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I tell you what, we've had some big twitches. Ayrton Birmingham had a massive twitch coming out of the cutting that particular lap, so we're very lucky not to have lost anyone from that top 5 or 6 places so far. Looks like Jonathan Spiteri's lost a couple of places. He's down to P8 now. He's dropped out of the P8. I wonder if something happened to Jonathan Spiteri there, because he was running P6. He's now at least P9. We also saw Christian Samut making up a couple of places at the back. He's now into 11th position. He was 13th the first time we caught sight of him, and there are 13 cars in the race in total, which is more than we've had at some of the previous races of the season. So good to see 13 people making it into this one. And at the end of the second lap, it's going to be Samut followed by it's going to be Vela followed by Samut, then Birmingham, then Dens, and then of course the car of Pather, or how do you say it, Patch?
It's
George
Page.
George Page in
Page
5th position.
Absolutely. So kind of running in single file at this moment in time. It's all kind of down to their own personal pace for this moment at least. There's not really any point in making the pit stop this early, because otherwise you'll then have to make a second stop, and they follow their way through, and you can already see the gap there up to 1.6 here for Kyokudo Racing. Continues up toward the hill section. He's really starting to find a rhythm. He's really starting to settle in that Porsche 911 RSR, and I think Yves Jacques, oh, that's a bit of a moment there for Kyokudo. I think a little bit too much off on the throttle, and I wonder if this is potentially going to close the gap. Not by much, but I think also I think Samet is also trying to get in the rhythm as well. You can see there Birmingham is still trying to latch onto the back of Yves Jacques, but a little bit of an improvement. So slowly but surely falling into the rhythm, finding all the spots and where to improve, getting right up to the Armco barriers. It really does make you squint when they get right up to that Armco barrier, because there is a potential that an incident is only minutes away.
Yeah, now I was trying to catch a glimpse of what happened to Jonathan Spiteri on that last lap, because he did drop down into 10th position, and I very quickly saw a green flag flashing at the back of the frame as I rewound on the YouTube stream. That of course implies that there was a yellow flag before that, so I'm expecting that Spiteri had a little off, maybe bounced off a barrier somewhere, and that's why he's in 10th position now. We're seeing a move at the back of the field. Ivan 46 overtaking Aussie down there in the battle to not be last, and 2 purple Porsches heading side by side into the chase, and a decent move there from Ivan 46. Sometimes you see cars going side by side into the chase and not making it out the other side. And the beautiful haze of the early morning, I think it is, at Bathurst, as the headlights pierce through and over the crest, is a wonderful scenario for this gladiatorial fight we're seeing in the early stages.
It really does set the scene of what we're seeing at this moment in time, and what we are seeing is Kyokudo has had that lead chomped down. So I wonder if there has been a mistake here from, of course, Vela. But I do think that Samet still has a little bit of weight to his shoulders. He does not like that kind of exit from the cutting. He really seems to have that struggle from Griffin's Mount. He just seemed to get a little bit loose in those kind of moments, so potentially maybe a bit of a setup issue, or he gets a little bit too excited on that throttle pedal. But there's not many places you can make a move around this circuit. If you're brave, you can go for Hell Corners or Murray's, the first, the final corner. And if you've got a bit of you know what on you, you can try Quarry's Bend, but I don't think it will come off well. And then if you do want to go for a move, you've got to wait you've got to wait from quarries all the way down to the chase, and that's kind of your first main proper overtaking spot. We've seen moves aplenty at that section as Kyokudo runs his car all the way down there, of course top speed of 300 or close to 300 kilometers an hour down that straight. But again, there's every single moment you're seeing a potential overtake and a potential gain of position. There goes Denz around the outside of Ayrton Birmingham around the chase, but he's just been squeezed out there by the Porsche, the Red Bull livery Porsche, and now George Page is able to put himself into the mix. But it just doesn't seem like Samet has the pace that he has been, that you've seen this entire season.
Yeah, he just ran out of room there on the outside of the chase, and that's understandable because your opponent has the inside line. You very quickly get shown the gravel trap. Up the hill we go. Kyokudo Racing, if they were to finish like this in just over 30 minutes time, then he would be the champion of this particular season, but still plenty of time to go. And as I said before, Bathurst is such a difficult track that it really is open until the very end. Yves Jaku second position, and then you've got that fight for third between Addicts and Denz. And and a big slide again from Kyokudo, but keeps it under control. You wonder if the track hasn't quite got the grip in it yet. It's quite early in the morning by the look of it, and as a result, the cars sliding around as they go. As for Addicts and Denz, so Birmingham versus Aguis, it looks to me as if they cost each other a little bit of time in that fight. Drop back from Jaku, who himself has started to drop back from Kyokudo, so it started to spread out in these early stages, but that has brought Page into that particular battle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about that kind of third and fourth place battle. They're just trying to stick there with Sam because they know they have the pace, and this is probably the close they've been all throughout the season to that little tussle, to that little championship league battle. But they just don't have the same kind of pace. They have to really fight amongst themselves and say, right, let me have a go. But then they find themselves tussling amongst each other, like I say. But it will be interesting to see who comes out on top in terms of that last place spot on the podium for our final race of the season. But they head their way into Murray's once again. And Denz just continue to push on and see if he can latch on the back of Ayrton Birmingham. Of course, we know that Denz has great race pace and had the opportunity to finish second if things really start to crumble for Jake Samet, which I don't think he will be entirely impressed, but he's still trying to really press on as much as possible. The sky above the circuit looking as beautiful as ever, and there you can see them with a purple first sector, promising signs as well. But I think the main kind of thing we're looking at here is how will Jake Samet approach this little tussle, little circuit, or I shouldn't say little circuit, this huge circuit with Kyokudo Racing two and a half seconds up ahead, because it's so difficult to bridge a gap like that, especially when you don't seem to have the same amount of confidence at the cars around you. Potentially a little bit under, but just not quite got that same spark as we've seen in the last couple of races. You may have to go for an undercut here, which could put him ahead, but at what point do you do that undercut? And of course, at what point do you make that move? At what point do you kind of make that attack and make that maneuver, make that chess piece move to try and change the face of the race?
Well, I'd like to see what the lead gap is now, because Yves Jaku has lost a bit more time. I possibly made a mistake or something, because he clearly had 2 or 3 seconds to Addicts behind, and now very much does not have that. They're separated by probably about half a second heading down the straight, and you can see there's a chain of 4 cars from second back to 5th position, and that has allowed Kyokudo to really get away into the lead of the race. It's very hard to actually estimate at this point in time, but you can see it there. 2.8 seconds, I think that says, is the gap for the lead. And there is the chasing pack, all Porsches up there with the exception of Denz in the Lexus RCF, a blue Porsche of Yves Jaku. Jake Samet across the line and out through Hell Bend. I've heard that Hell Bend was called that because it had a really nasty tree stump on the outside back when this track was opened in the 1930s, and it was primarily used for motorcycle racing back in those days. So you can imagine the motorcyclists weren't very happy about having tree roots all over the place on the exit of the corner, and they nicknamed it Hell Bend, which caught on and became the official name of the corner.
It does seem to be that is the way that circuit or that corner was named after, but it seemed to be a bit of a hell of a race here for Jake Salmon, now losing 3 seconds behind Kyoto, and I think that he will have to make a big change in this race and maybe make an earlier pit stop, but there is a potential that on 2 different sets of tyres. Of course, you have that option of putting on a medium and putting on a soft tyre. It might be that Kyoko's gone for a soft whilst Sam has gone for a medium, so we'll have to keep an eye on the pit stop, so when we can find that data. At this moment in time, that 2 minute 2.1 second fastest lap there from Kyoto is really giving us an idea on how he's kind of feeling. See there, the lap time on the right hand side still staying pretty consistent relatively, but still a few missing pieces here, there, and here and there. At this moment in time, he must be feeling pretty comfortable with himself. He's got that kind of upper hand, that mental upper hand of being ahead, having no pressure on his shoulders. That 3.5 second gap is really starting to become apparent now. He's just really in the feel of the circuit, finding the rhythm, really finding himself in a comfortable spot, and that's where you need to be the championship contender. Leave it to be down to your opponents to maybe make something happen. That's a big move there from Dent, trying to put the car up the inside here, and they'll power their way, drag race their way up towards Quarry Bend.
You could see that happening all the way from the exit of the final corner, and Agris there is getting involved. Well, Agris is Dens, but you have Pash getting involved on the right-hand side there, 3 wide, up through the mountain straight. Oh, and into the barriers goes Dens. Agris bounces off the wall on the outside and drops down to 5th position, and the green and yellow Porsche of George Pash has indeed made up 2 positions as a result of that. It was brave, but he made it work. I think that was all fair from him, but I'm not sure that Agris would feel the same way.
I think there will be a little bit of a discussion, but that was a very, very bold move there from George Page. You just see some of the driver eye cameras. I'd love to ride on board with one of our drivers for a bit here, just to get a sense of what this circuit is like. There is Ayrton Birmingham, so hopefully we can just stick with this camera for a little bit, just to get a sense of what this circuit is like from a driver eye, because it looks tight from the cinematics. Must look even tighter from a driver eye perspective, and it must be so what's the word I'm looking for? It must be so intimidating driving a circuit like this, which requires confidence. A lack of confidence, you can find yourself in the barrier or find yourselves the second side in the rest of the field. Slipstream being in effect here for Birmingham. He's going to pull now to the right hand side there of George Page, and now looks like a 3rd place back there for Ayrton Birmingham. They put slam on the brakes there, but Page still sticking the car in. So for now, a lot of bumping, a lot of barging for that 3rd place spot. That's so important to them right this moment in time. But Alex now in toward that left-hander, trying to really put the car in a good spot there. But it's still on the attack for Page. He's going for it every single place he possibly can. So they pause their way and pull the car in towards Hell Corner once again, but a moment there for Alex, and this may leave him a little bit vulnerable once again heading on to Quarry Bend. And I don't think we'll see 3 wide this time around, but it's still a close battle nonetheless.
Yeah, that was a touring car style move there from Ayrton Birmingham as he rubbed his way past the GG car of George Pash. And I tell you what, that looked like something you would have seen in a support race for the Bathurst 1000, let alone a 40-minute GT race. Here's Dens up the hill. He's dropped a little bit away from the 2 cars ahead of him. Probably won't have too much damage from that, from what we've seen so far in this race. But certainly not ideal for his race prospects. Now we fly through the left-hander some of the really fast corners up at Solman Park, McPhillamy Park, down to Skyline. Skyline, of course, named so because it is the highest point of the circuit as you go down into the Dipper, taking a lot of grass on the inside there, and sometimes that can spear you into the wall on the outside. They were just about okay with that. And the gap for the lead has extended to 4.3 seconds now. Kayukidu really getting away in these early stages, but we have a long way to go. Remember, we still have pit stops coming up, probably not far from here because we're nearing the halfway point in this race. Everybody must change tyres and refuel, and that could also change the face of the race depending on when they decide to do so. It could change this battle as well, and I think if drivers feel they're being held up by this, then there might be a good reason to pit sooner.
It will be interesting to see where those first pit stops come in, but you don't really see them at this point. It's usually after that 20-minute mark where drivers decide to make their way into the pit lane. I wonder if for any of these drivers will they decide to get out of that close kind of tussle that they're currently losing time to in the wider picture. They are losing time to Jake Sammett here, but it looks like Addict's going a little bit defensive there. Birmingham tries to now look and drive in his mirror, which is not the most ideal driving style to go with. They bar their way through, and Page is still just continuously putting in the pressure in that Manti Racing inspired green and yellow Porsche. Beautiful liveries to have. All of these cars have wonderful liveries. We've seen Rexy in the pink, we've seen it in the green, we've seen it now in the blue, we've seen the grey and yellow Red Bull livery of Addicts. Have been amazing to see all season, but we have seen some of the bright liveries of Ends and of course GRG.GG of George Page. I've already mentioned the Manti Porsche we saw. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but we had MMR Super Uber in that beautiful Castrol liveried Honda NSX. Unfortunately, he will not be participating for this final race, but continue all the way down to Forest's Elbow, rounding the trees that surround the circuit, and then they'll power their way on towards Conrod Street and the Chase. But we hit that 20-minute mark halfway into the race, and Kyokudo still with the advantage. I'm not sure if that's going to be changing anytime soon.
I've noticed there's been a change for 6th place since last time we looked. Jensen and Button is now running there. Presumably not the Jensen Button in his Porsche. We have, is that Orland behind him? And that would be Clint Orland. Jensen and Button, I don't have any information on who the driver actually is, so we'll continue to refer to him as such. And JP005 now running in 8th position. Is John Paul Vella. So well done to those drivers for getting themselves up the order compared to the drivers who were there earlier on. Running a little bit wide out of that corner was Ayrton Birmingham. Seemed to take a bit of grass on the exit of the corner, and now he has Page coming up towards him using the slipstream. That wind brake from the massive rear wing and big silhouette of the Porsche up the hill. He got closer, but no move this time around, as we've now crossed the halfway point in this race.
We have indeed, and I think that it starts to really build on the pressure for Samus. He's still running there in second, but this is the battle we're really looking for here, because of course we know that George Page has been quite on the pace there with Ayrton Birmingham. He's always trying to look for a gap where possible. He's almost capitalized on the mistakes that Birmingham has made. You can see that the weather is changing all the time here, so potentially something to look out for. I don't think there'll be any rain, but I think we'll have that night to sunshine transition, which has almost been completed. But for now, Addicts still runs in that 3rd place, and 5 seconds is the gap now to Ijaka, and I wonder if it will be time to pit here for, of course, for Samet, because he's running now 5 seconds behind his championship rival. the undercut will really be the only other opportunity to get himself into the race. I don't even know, I'm not entirely sure if they're on the same kind of tyre, but I'm sure we'll be able to see that when we go into the pit stop phase. I think they're both running on mediums here, because if the soft tyres were on any of these cars, they would have made that pit stop already. So potentially on same tyre, same pace, I think that Sam just hasn't quite got to grips with this circuit, still running in that second position. That's what the batting has done with Birmingham, with Pard, with Dens. They've now got a massive gap there to Sam. They'll continue, and you can just see there momentarily the cinematics of this beautiful Bathurst circuit. Will Page go for the move? He's already done it once, he won't do it again. And then down in towards second gear, you might have a look here at the cutting, but we've seen that go wrong in the past. He'll have to catch Ayrton Birmingham off by surprise. Birmingham stays in the middle, lazy defending, but wide moment there for Ayrton Birmingham. Will he push him maybe in toward the barrier? He's going to have to hang it on the outside, and the door just gets slammed shut there. So no way through that time around there for Page. He's going to have to go again here on Ayrton Birmingham, with Dens now just sitting there in the background thinking, I want a piece of this. But will he maybe get away from this battle in terms of strategy, because there's so much that the pit stops can do in this race, but it's just not quite there for some of these cars, like Page trying to overtake her. Barrier hit there, and then sweeps on through there, and that's exactly what a mistake can do here around Bathurst. And Page just drops a place there. Dens now gets elevated, and he can go on the attack here for P3.
So a minute ago, Page was going for that third position. It was a bold move, even though Addict Ayrton Birmingham left the door wide open for him. He still really took a choice to dive through there and wasn't quite able to make it. And then, of course, seemed to be frustrated by that. Just had a big twitch, ended up knocking into the barrier. I think Dens had a hit of the barrier a couple of corners earlier. And into the pits now comes Yves Jarcu from second position. So our first pit stopper from inside the top 5 is Yves Jarcu, Jake Samut, one of our championship contenders. That will extend the championship lead. Addict is also in the pits, so Ayrton Birmingham pits as well, putting GRG Page into the top 3.
Absolutely, so that's an early pit stop there. And the medium tyres for, of course, we know Jake Sammets, and of course mediums for Addict. Mediums to go long in terms of their stint, and then filling the fuel right up. Use a lot of fuel. In fact, Orlan, look at that, down to 0% for Clint Orlan. And now how much will how much will he use? Up to 6% onto the soft tyres, and out he goes. A bit of a moment there on the exit, trying to stamp the throttle down. And now we see here Samet heading out the pit lane in that number 53 blue themed Rexy for this race, and drops to 7th. He'll try and latch onto Samet as quickly as possible. He hasn't had the best of races. He's still trying to find his way around the Bathurst circuit and find out all the points here, but yellow flags here. Overtaking, I think, is not allowed in this section, because it seems like we've had a car off. I'm not entirely sure who that is. And we see there's Spiteri heading out the pit lane here. I wonder if Kyokudo knows that there's been a pit stop from his championship rival, and if he's going to cover that off.
Yeah, I saw yellow flags down there the lap before as well, so maybe someone retired from the race there and it hasn't updated or something like that. We only have 12 cars left in the race, so we do have one missing, and I'm afraid I'm not familiar enough with this field to point out exactly who that is, but I'm sure if we do get that information, then we will let you know. But Koyokudu continues to lead, stays out, Dens is second, and now into the pits comes Koyokudu, if I'm reading that graphic correctly. It looks as if the leader is in, and he had to do so that's not really a surprise. Does Dens go through and lead the race? He comes in the pits as well, as every driver has to do. We could end up with Button leading this race. Not that it really matters, because it'll just be a couple of laps in the sun at best. And out of the pits will go Koyokudu as soon as that fuel tank is full.
Absolutely. So I think that Jensen and Button's going to come into the pit lane with 1% remaining on his fuel. There's Kyokudo just sitting down there in the pit for a long time. Out of the final corner, I think, will come the first set of drivers, and there is Jake Sammet. How much has he gained? How much has he lost? Well, he's gained a little bit, but it's now down to 3.5 seconds. So unless he's got some ultimate pace on these soft tyres, forces Kyokudo into a mistake, we think that that will be it for Kyokudo. But a purple sector trying to potentially send a warning here in the way, and I think that gap now down to 2.9 seconds. He really does mean business, but how much is it worth trying to push those tyres? He's got 12 minutes to catch the car ahead, and already making a tad mistake going up to the cutting and on towards Griffiths Mount. It will be a rough ride here for Salmon as he looks to try and gain and bridge on that 3-second gap.
It looks like George Page lost 2 positions from where he was before this pit window. Jensen and Button's gone through, as has Orland. And thank you very much to our broadcaster Mario for keeping us updated. Apparently it was Ozzy who retired, so that will be Osbert Xuereb. And unfortunately that means we are down to 12 cars left in this particular race. So yeah, like I said, thank you very much for updating us on that. There is our leader, Kyokudo, and second position, Yves Jaku, Jake Samut. And we were also told by Mario that the reason Jake is running the blue Rexy livery is for his team. EVE is what represents his team, Project Aversio. And the blue Rexy livery is an homage to them. So how much would he like to win today with the blue Rexy livery of Project Aversio on his car? Jake Samut continues to go after Dan Vella, my apologies, and the gap is 3 seconds.
It is for the moment. That's a really nice kind of homage there for his esports team. And we really like seeing those liveries out on the circuit, but it's this moment in time. He's only taken that Rexy car to one victory back at Barcelona, and that is when Daniel Vella did not appear and managed to take the championship lead that time round, where we potentially saw a potential victory in that case. The championship, but it's just decided to go away. I just think that right here, right now, does Samut have anything to respond to Kyokudo with? Because we know that Kyokudo has been so strong all throughout this session. He's been right on the pace. He's been using all the right lines, all the right speed. The setup just seems to be on point here. Samut just trying to push as much as possible, but there you can see the sun really coming up now. The clouds are cleared, and now in towards Brock's skyline. I think now it's starting to become apparent that it is a very difficult section, but we know that Brock's skyline is one of the most beautiful parts of the back of the circuit. But if you get caught looking at it too much, then you'll find yourselves going into that wall of skyline rather than Brock's wall rather than down through the cutting. Ends, of course, we know, with a great race pace, and is still now right on the back here of Addicts of Hyundai Birmingham, and so could have the potential of taking P3 here on those soft compound tyres they've changed onto. This is going to be the battle raging on for the last 9 minutes of this race. That final podium spot. Of course, we know that Dent has had 2 podiums or 2 P3s in the last in this season at Laguna Seca and Dragon's Trail, whilst Birmingham then got his podium, his 3rd place at Barcelona. But purple there for Jake Samut, still trying to push there and push to the back there, and that's all he can do to try and push the limits, push that car and see if he can make anything happen and just try and pull the championship into his own contention.
It really does make you wonder what Vella could have done if he had made every race of the season. Of course, missed 2. He missed the very first race, and then of course he missed the one, I think Barcelona from memory. Yes, it was Barcelona. I'm quite proud of myself for that. But there you go. Scored maximum points at Dragon's Trail. And you really have to say that if he had made those other 2 races, there's nothing to say that he wouldn't have got an absolute clean sweep of the season. The best that he can do, of course, is hold on for 8 more minutes to win this particular race. He would get a clean sweep of the races he's actually started, and it would be a seriously impressive feat to win an 8-round championship with just 6 starts, because mathematically that takes quite some doing. But he's leading now. We're over 3/4 of the way into this race, and Dens has got Ayrton Birmingham, so there's been a change of position there. Dens is up to 3rd in the Lexus RCF.
An absolutely big move there from Dens, and that was really good stuff there. I think that that move was coming at one point. He just needed to put it all together, and a 201.8 on the fresh set of soft tyres for the Lexus, and that is why he's a former champion. And that is why Dens is one of the best in the business, but he's just not quite had the race pace that has been shown by Kyokudo, shown by Samet. I'm sure he'll come back in next season's Asphalt Kings, and I'm sure he'll look to come back swinging and try and take the crown. The skies have now become very much apparent in terms of the clear weather. Kyokudo still pushing along here as they head their way up towards the mountain section. There's not long left for Sam to make a response. They've not been as close as we have liked when we saw them around Suzuka. I think that was the closest we'll ever see them. Oh, a bit of a squeal there from the tire from Kyokudo, but yeah, going back to what I was saying, I think Sam was Fuji will be the closest we have ever seen them. It's just one of those rounds where it's always in sight but never close enough to make an overtake, and it's just one of those commanding Kyokudo potential victories. The only thing that can really stop Kyokudo right now is himself, and that just shows the full control with 5 minutes and 45 seconds left.
Yeah, when I say he could have won every race, of course, I mean could have in the fact that we genuinely don't know, because of course it hasn't been entirely straightforward for him. He didn't take pole position at some of the rounds. He didn't take pole position today, and like I said, there was only one round where he took the maximum points, that is a race victory and a point for fastest lap and a point for pole position, and realistically that means that he is not entirely infallible. He is mostly infallible, but when you get to a round and he doesn't take fastest lap or doesn't take pole position, that means that he is technically beatable. You just have to be pretty darn perfect. On this occasion, no one quite perfect enough. Yves Jarcu had the pace, set that pole position, but made a mistake on just the first lap of the race and hasn't been able to keep up ever since. Hasn't been that far off, just 3.7 seconds as it stands, but with less than 5 minutes to go, he would really need something dramatic to happen to Dan Bella now for the championship and the race to go any other way. And there is Dan Bella. We're on course to do 20 laps, so there will be 2 more after this one, unless I'm very much mistaken.
I'm sure that these guys will be very much really looking forward to next season, especially if your name is Jake Sam. And yes, he may be looking back, regretting that kind of mistake at the end of lap 1 of this race, and really kind of feeling the regret after the checker flag will fly here in Bathurst. But yeah, I think that he'll try and come back swinging. I'm sure that he'll spend a little bit of time on this game to try and fix up where his mistakes are. He is very much a champion in the making if it doesn't come to fruition now, but there is a clear reason why that Sam is one of those drivers and a potential prospect for the future. He's got all the ingredients. He just needs to add a little bit more speed, a little bit more he needs to add a little bit more to his game. He needs to keep composure as well. I think that'll be another big thing for Sam for next season. But at this moment in time, he has put up a really, really good run. From Watkins Glen, he has not been off the podium. He's not finished lower than 2nd place. And if that isn't an amazing feat, I don't know what is. He's been very much pushing this entire time. But yeah, I think that for now it would just be the crown that got away in the end of this. Meanwhile, Dens has set the fastest lap with 2 minutes point 9, so not too bad there from Denzel Agius. He's very much been one of those drivers that has been really, really consistent. Of course, he's very rarely made a mistake, maybe once or twice had an off day, especially when we went back to Brazil and only claimed a 6th place finish, but it comes to the final round with the potential of taking a 3rd podium in this season, and with the fastest lap only a second off the real life, only a second off the real life lap record set by Christopher Nice in the McLaren 720 GT3. But we now start to really come down to those last couple of moments and the last few minutes of this entire season of Asphalt Kings.
Indeed, just over 2 minutes to go now. So the next lap could actually be the last one, and will be. So we won't quite. Well, you see that we are on lap 19 now. At least the leaders are. So we will just about get to lap 20. There is Yves Jacques. We also, of course, have a fight for 3rd place in the championship. Agris came into this equal on points with Jonathan Spiteri, but Agris would easily take that if it was to finish like this, especially considering he has an extra point for fastest lap. Agris, of course, being Dens, who is running in 3rd position in this race with a fastest lap of 2 minutes point 934. That's very nearly the qualifying laps that they had as well. Here comes Kayukido, Dan Vella, leading the race comfortably. 5 seconds now is the gap, and he has just one more lap to go before bringing home the trophy and winning this championship.
Yeah, he's been very much a driver that has been on form throughout this entire season. Of course, we know that he missed the opening round in Interlagos and, of course, Barcelona, but he's been very much a driver that has really claimed top honours in this so far. He'll have one more lap to go, and then we'll turn his way on towards this final lap. And what a final lap it will be. He is, of course, going to really take in every single moment he's got. Of course, all Jake Sammer can do is just push that car as much as possible, but there is no way he is overcoming a 5.6 deficit. And there is the landscape that Kyoto is about to look to conquer. He's been very much a driver when he came into this championship very quickly, grabbing 52 points in this first 2 races he entered the championship with. A previous champion, so we know he's had the speed this entire season, but there you can see already the wiggles from the tide that is starting to really die off here in these latter stages of this race. But Kyoto just needs to bring it home coming into those very, very tight sections. And once again, on this last lap, all you got to do is just keep it right up to the barrier. It's the only way to finish a race like this around Bathurst. You'll never feel the it's always thrilling to feel the experience of getting right up close to the barriers. It went on an absolute tear since his missed round in Barcelona, came back swinging with 50 points in Sardinia and Fuji combined, and now we came into Bathurst, points on point with Sam. He was potentially on the back foot when it came to qualifying, but that mistake from Sam proved crucial more than ever, and he has just led from the front. He's got only a couple more corners to go, and the mountain has been claimed here. Kyokudo has had all the speed, all the pace, and in a championship that has come down to 2 huge contenders, only one has come on top. Kyokudo, for the second time, is champion of the Asphalt Kings, and an amazing place to do it, such as Mount Panorama. Today, Kyokudo is the king of the Panorama.
What a fantastic race from Kyokudo Racing. Dan Vella, the Asphalt King, has been crowned on the asphalt, and there is the celebration. Wonderful stuff there, and commiserations, of course, to Jake Samu, but he gave it his all. Well-deserved second position in the championship. Couldn't quite demote the might of Vela, who won every single race that he started in the season. A perfect record for seemingly a perfect driver.
Absolutely, he has just been another level above the drivers that have been in this championship. There you can see the final results there. Kyokudo takes top honors ahead of Jake Samu, who's pushed him all the way, but it just never came to full fruition. And of course, there Den's taking that amazing P3. You knew the race pace was good on that Lexus RC GT3, but yeah, then we see Alex there in fourth. Jensen and Button taking a best finish of fifth, so big old kudos there to Jensen and Button. And then you have Orland followed by George Page, who never had the best race. I think that he's had a few struggles with Jonathan Spiteri there in P8 to round us off, but that is the end of Asphalt Kings for this season. The book comes to a close. The final chapter has been written, and Kyokudo really signs it off in style. A second championship, but what about that? That was another drive for the books of Vela, and a really well-deserved crown.
And of course, that means that the top 3 in the race are the top 3 in the championship as well. You can't really end on a more fitting note than that, with Aguis coming home, Denzel Aguis coming home in 3rd position to take 3rd place in the championship a year after, or a season after, his last championship victory.
Absolutely, it's been a season full of thrills and spills. Started off with an MMR Super Uber victory in Interlagos, and since then we thought it was going to go in the way of the Honda, but then of course the patch came in, and then we saw that racing, and the pace has just been unbelievable. I definitely think next season we could see even closer. Could we go to a 3-way, 4-way, maybe even a 5-car battle for the championship? We'll definitely see if we can expand the grid from the 16 drivers that have entered this season. I'm sure that we'll be seeing plenty more come next season. I definitely see this being another having another season of just amazing action, don't you think, Caitlin?
Yeah, for sure, and I'm very glad that I could cover this one, so thank you very much for having me. I will try my best to tune in for the next one, whenever and whatever that may be.
Absolutely, and as we round this off, just want to say a big thank you to Malta Gaming Malta, who has stood by us for this entire season, and they've been one of our proud sponsors, and we can't thank them enough. In collaboration as well to Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP. We can't thank you enough for being part of this amazing season here. A production brought to you by Velocity Esports Racing. We do have another GT3 championship coming onto the horizon, which I'm sure you'll be able to keep up to date, and you can follow us at Velocity Esports Racing on all social medias. But from myself and Caitlin, I'm sure that you have it's been one to really dream about, especially if your name is Daniel Vela. He'll go away from this Asphalt Kings here with a title now to defend. We'll see you for the next GT3 race, which will be coming very, very soon. Keep an eye on the social medias. And for now, myself and Caitlin, thank you. Take care. Good night.